everyone. So the episode pretty much picks up where it left off with how pretty much with how absolutely dismantling the fleet that came to the island, and the start of this episode and the back half of this episode have really illustrated a core problem I never really thought I was ever going to admit having with the original anime, but the reboot is definitely proving just how small the original series was. And when I say that, I do mean it in regards to scope and scale, because even though Hao always talked about ruling the world and ruling the world and being more powerful and ruling over humanity, being all powerful and all that shit, the conflicts in the original anime were left very self-contained, and they never actually stretched to the point of even seeing Hao's power when thrown up against modern normal society. But here in the reboot, we're getting like a full-on demonstration of the idea that it doesn't matter what era or it is or how powerful humanity's weapons have eventually become. Like, normal human beings are simply no match for Hao. And even though we've become perfectly aware of that up to this point, we became perfectly aware of that fact up to this point, and it was just how powerful Hao is. Being able to see firsthand that just the level of disparity between humans and Howman and Shaman, and especially Hao, as just kind of reinforces the gap in power, and just that he does have those abilities, that he does have the ability to rule the world. Now, with that said, let's talk about Yo's response after Hao's rampage, because even though he still wants to save Hao, you can tell the way Yo talks about Hao, perceives him. There's really no longer this sense of trying to save Hao because it's the right thing to do, and more just he kind of pities Hao and everything he represents up to this point. From the way the others reacted, is it's one of those things where he doesn't. I don't think I don't. It's always hard to say with Yo because of the type of character he is, but I don't think he necessarily respects Hao anymore. He just wants to save him because he feels pity towards him for just how he acts and whatnot. How Hao really is just a child lashing out, at least in Yo's viewpoint. And the way the others reacted as well, you can see that they've almost kind of arrived at the same conclusion, that even though Hao is powerful, he only appears dangerous in the outset, when really there's nothing to actually fear about him so long as they can prevent him from destroying humanity. And I love even more so how ultimately everyone basically conceded defeat to Hao, because they're no longer willing to really play by the patch's rules anymore, and want to defeat Hao and become Shaman King on their own terms, rather than the terms of how rather than the terms that the patch have set. They're just they've arrived at the conclusion that they just don't want they just don't want to continue being led along but by the patch's rules. It's to them it just isn't any kind of way in order to conduct this anymore. With that said, for as much as Yo believes Hao truly can be saved, I do like how he also came to terms with the reality that someone did in fact need to die today in order for them to advance. When we see Lucas block their path, and yeah, the battle between him and Marco, as well as Lucas' speech, is very reminiscent of Doflamingo's speech about justice where during Marineford, where just the whole base idea of there really is no such thing as justice. The only kind of justice that's created in this world is the kind you make for yourself. And how an individual perceives justice. It's one of those speeches that's very, very broad on the surface, but I'm not gonna and very like stereotypical in some ways. But honestly, looking at modern society, I feel speeches like little speeches like that really feel way too a lot more relevant now than they ever have before. Like the whole idea of justice is just BS, honestly. The whole idea of justice in modern society is honestly just bullshit. It really freaking is. And just justice is just whatever the individual makes of it at this point. At this point, that's really all you could say about it. Um, Now, with that said, I was kind of surprised at how little ground we actually covered, or I guess little in context of the chapters adapted, because the episode covered the short journey to Mu, the battle the battle of Marco versus Lucas, and the start of the battle of like Yo's group against Silva, which it would be fine if we had this is one of those things where it sounds like it adapted a lot, but the thing is, it it didn't really adapt a whole lot either. Like it's almost one of those. This is one of those episodes where it's it's kind of hard to describe my thoughts on the pacing of this episode, but it's one of the best way I can is that the show right now is in this weirdly awkward place where now this back half of the story is suffering from kind of the reverse problem as the first half. The first half, as you'll know, I criticize more often than not for cutting out certain aspects, like cutting corners and rushing through the initial beats of the story. Whereas in this back half, it's done pretty well. It's done pretty well in adapting the story, but the pacing itself feels off. And I'm getting that feeling that they could be like adapting like more chapters into a single episode now. And I'm not even talking like a whole like 5 extra chapters into a single episode, but it just feels like these last couple episodes have basically stopped like one or two episodes short. Like they could be adapting at least two more episodes but they're falling short of those 2 episodes, but to the episode's credit, it still does end on a higher note than last week's episode with Silva confronting Yo and the others. And I kind of loved how even now under the circumstances, Silva's still like doing his usual thing of teaching Yo and the others through fighting, because like as weird as it is to say, you can tell Silva weirdly doesn't want to fight him, but he doesn't want to fight, but and he actually he wants them to defeat him. Like he wants to be surpassed by Yo and the others. And yeah, it is kind of interesting how even now under these circumstances, like Silva has remained this who he always was. And I think that is something I kind of like about Silva, is that he, no matter what happens, he's always himself, regardless of the situation. But one thing I will say is that Silva's evil face near the end of the episode, like, holy crap. The thing with that scene is that the manga gave him a scary face, I'm not going to deny that, but in the anime, that shit's plain creepy and meme-worthy. Like the way the artists did Silva's scary face, that shit just screams, I'm a creeper, meme me. I don't know. I don't know. Also, but anyway, another thing I really appreciate. One thing I really appreciate is how this series kind of bucked the trend with the kinds of shonen with the usual kind of shonen battles it has in this scenario, by actually having the main character's opponent appear first rather than last. Like it's something where in usual cases that one opponent after another would appear in order to split the group up from the main character, but in this case, like the main character's opponent appeared first. It's a really nice kind of it's a little bit of a bucking of the usual trends. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. If I'm on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.